Order. Question number 4. Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Mr Speaker, this question is to the Prime Minister and asks, does he stand by all his statements, even if facts known to him make doing so extraordinarily difficult? If so, why? And
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, yes, I do stand by all my statements in the context they were given with the information that was available at the time.
Supplementary question.
Supplementary question. Right Honourable Winston
Well, if
Peters.
that's remotely true, when he was asked by the media about Todd Macleay MP's actions... Todd Barclay. What a terrible relief.
Order. Order. All members make the occasional mistake. We'll allow the question to start again.
I've no doubt Todd Macleay knew as well, but anyways. When he was asked by the media about Todd Barclay MP's actions and against the Prime Minister's statement to the police in April 2016, why yesterday, when he was first questioned by the media, did he simply not tell the truth?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, as I explained just before and actually yesterday, at the time I was asked that question, yesterday morning I was asked about a statement that was made, I think, some 12 or 15 months ago. I had not checked that statement, and as soon as I did check it to see what I had said, I made it public.
Supplementary question.
Order. Order. Supplementary question. Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Well, I can remember you.
Order. Order. There's a level of interjection coming from all quarters that must cease so that I can hear the question from the Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Mr Prime Minister, does it not make sense to sack someone who has breached professional standards and broken the law immediately that it's known to the leadership of a party? If so, why did it take him so long to get some guts and do just that? Order.
Order. That question is not in order. There is no prime ministerial responsibility as the leader of a party, and I refer the member to Speaker's rulings 172 and 173 that I quoted yesterday. Further supplementary?
Supplementary question.
Supplementary question. Right Honourable Winston.
Is it not a fact that he deliberately didn't tell the truth when first questioned yesterday because he himself was deeply complicit in trying to avoid legal action with taxpayers' hush money and knew full well that a confidential agreement or contract to cover up a crime is an illegal contract?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister, insofar as there was prime ministerial responsibility.
Mr Speaker, no, I had the employment dispute is between the employer and the employee. I was absolutely no party to that, and I don't know what the dispute was or how it was settled.
I don't believe that. Supplementary question, Speaker.
Supplementary question. Right Honourable Winston.
Speaker, when the chronology of events and the communications have his DNA all over the story, including the cover-up and the hush money, how can anyone possibly trust him on these matters or on, for that matter, the economy about which he speaks so much spin?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Well, Mr Speaker, I can only repeat what I've said to the member. There was an employment dispute which was settled between the employer and the employee. I was no party to that dispute or the settlement.
Supplementary question.
Supplementary question. Right Honourable Winston Peters.
When it's clear to every independent commentator that this Prime Minister is complicit in a cover-up, why doesn't he resign?
Order. Order. The Prime Minister can proceed to answer that question.
Mr Speaker, I simply reject the member's assertions, and the fact that he wants to keep on saying it doesn't make it true. And I made this my statement to the police stated what I knew of the circumstances, and I would have thought that making the statement to the police was not a cover-up.
Question number 5, Dr. Jiang Yang.
Mr. Speaker, my question